Hello and welcome to the Next 100 Days podcast. My name is Graham Arrowsmith.
And my name's Kevin Appleby. Now, Graham, in this podcast, we've frequently had people talking about making corporate escapes and so on. And it's amazing the number of people that kind of get to that midlife place and get stuck. So I think we've got an expert today to help people get unstuck and work out what the next step actually is.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really peculiar lady, though, because she's working through the back catalogue of Desert Island Discs. Who'd want to do that? It's been going for about 500 years.
1942.
Yeah, I was going to say.
1942? Did radio even exist in 1942?
Actually, it sounds like a really good idea, that. But today we welcome Lucia Knight. Well, welcome to the Next 100 Days podcast.
Hello, Kevin. Hello, Graham. I'm delighted to be here. Oh,
well, we're really delighted to have you because, you know, it's not too late for us to shift tracks again, Kevin. But what is interesting with what you do, Lucia, is that you, I guess, help people at that stage of their life figure out that they can make a move, and presumably you help them to do so.
I do. So that's exactly the kind of person I work with has done what they are doing for quite a long time. Typically, minimum of 15 years. And they're just sort of waking up wondering, is this it? Is this what I want to do for the next 20 years? Is this enough? Is this fun enough? Is there enough joy in it? Or is it hurting me? And that's when they do all sorts of searches on Google and come up with me.
Oh, I see. So is that how most people find you?
I've been writing about a midlife career crisis for 8 years. So I get found easily on Google. Yeah. I write big articles about it from every angle, all the emotions, all the practical issues, all the potentials, all the possibilities. Yeah, so I've got a blog that's gone on for a long time.
Well, I didn't mention this before the show, but I actually, I was prodding around in an AI that I'm aware of. And one of the things I did, I said, look, I'm meeting this young lady called Lucia Knight, and can you just come up with some questions for me?
Ooh.
We've never done this because we just don't do the but it was really interesting that the kind of question that I'm just going to choose one because otherwise it'll get a little bit AI boring. So basically it talks about, first of all, it says, given Lucia Knight's fascinating background and multifaceted career, this interview presents a unique opportunity to delve into the intricacies of career transformation, especially during midlife. Here are some thought-provoking and insightful questions that would elicit valuable perspectives and advice from her. So, career transitions. Your career has taken several transformative turns. Could you share a pivotal moment that led you to pursue a psychology MSc and how it reshaped your career philosophy?
Yes, I can. AI. I'd be delighted to share that pivotal moment. It was rather a long question, but it got there in the end.
It did.
Yeah.
It was.
It's not as good as us at asking questions.
No, it isn't. No, I'll have to train it, but it can be trained. But
it can be trained. Yeah.
So,
do you want me to answer that or no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go on. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. So Tuesday night in October, around 2005. Almost at my birthday, that's why I remember. And I just had the day from hell. So left the house at 6:30-ish, handed my children over to a nanny, commuted to London, did an 8-hour day, commute back, met the nanny again, kids to bed, and I ran the kids up the stairs. And I was not my kind and normal self. It was like, get to bed, Mummy's got something important to do. And I had to do another call. And I did a call. I was a headhunter at the time. So I did a call. I interviewed this financial director who was great for the job. But I sat down at the end of it and thought, this is not the person I want to be. This is not the human I want to be. This is not the woman I want to be. I don't want to be that kind of mother. And I don't like this work enough to sacrifice all of the other things that I was sacrificing. And I was paid well, and I was paying lots of money for my childcare. So that's the pivotal moment when I did not decide to do a master's in psychology, but I said this time next year, I will not be here. And that's the moment where I started to research, where could I be? And I started to look at competitors. And I interviewed with the competitors, but all of that moment was the most important moment in my career change, because I had drawn the line and I knew that the future would be different, but I also knew I couldn't do it quickly. I had a mortgage, I had kids, I had responsibilities, I had teams that I managed. So a year seemed like a decent amount of time to make a clever change rather than a leap of faith.
Yeah, it's a really good answer, and to a question that I didn't even come up with. But I think it's actually quite a good question. It's just that you answered it really well. Actually, technically, you didn't answer it, because this is what was the pivotal moment that led you to pursue a psychology MSc? I don't think you answered that.
I didn't get to the end of that. So close to the end of that year, or maybe 9 months later, I'd researched everything. And I said no to loads of things because I would be taking the same problems to a competitor.
Yeah, sure.
And I just knew that wasn't smart, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I thought the only thing that I am superbly interested in is psychology. I spent a Amazonian amount of money on psychology books around motivation, people, drive, everything. And I knew that that would sustain me intellectually for a while, and it did. But at the end of that, I was a broken human being who was exhausted, probably a worse mother, a really unfun wife. And I knew at that point, that's the moment that I decided I know what I want to do when I grow up. I want to solve the problem that I had, and there was nobody out there who could solve it, which was, how do I unstick my career and figure out a way to choose a problem that I want to solve for the rest of my life. And that's what I now help people do.
Brilliant. Now, you used an interesting phrase there.
Mm-hmm.
When you grow up,
yeah,
you're a mother, you're a wife.
I'm a 51-year-old woman. Yeah.
Have you grown up yet?
I have. I feel on the inside like 21, but my dad, who's 82, also feels about 21. How old do you boys feel?
So, just a bit older, 25.
21, yeah.
No, 25. I think 21's a bit too young for me, but yeah, 25 is fine. 25. Because I think genuine, you are right that I look at the man in the mirror. I don't really feel that old. What I feel is that I've got so much energy. I'm coming up to retirement, and I'm thinking, do I sail through that? There's all kinds of things going through my mind, but the one thing at the moment I'm fascinated with is the way in which AI is going to impact on marketing, and in particular my part of marketing. So I am doing a lot of stuff in that area, and I can see that's going to sail me through a dead stop career. Because back in the day, you'd 65, that's it. Where's my gold watch?
And you'd be counting the days until you finish.
No,
and that's not what we want or need. Yeah,
I don't even know how many days there are, but it's not that many. And all I would say is that sometimes you just have to sail through these sort of false barriers, are they? I don't know, but you can tell me, because you're the psychology expert.
And look, I think we all have moments. I think I experience people living life, myself included, on a bit of autopilot, reacting to the stuff that happens. I'm a mum of young babies, so I'm just going to keep my career going. I decided I wanted to do that. I'm a married woman. I'm a mother of teenagers. I'm an empty nester. We just react to that. But our work is the biggest part of our waking hours, 60% for most of us. But we rarely deliberate enough to make deliberate decisions. And I think that's the key, so that we just pause, reflect, figure out what we want, what we need, and then figure out how I could do that to live the life I want to live and have the resources.
Okay. So, all right. So eventually you evolve into this person who's got this business called
Midlife Unstuck.
Midlife Unstuck. And it's a bit like one of those Channel 4 headlines. And there's a sort of the actual logo looks like it's been distorted in some way. It's almost like, is there something wrong with my eyesight? So you're obviously having a dig at people who wear glasses. And so I think we should be told. I really do. I think it's have a go, listener. Now get your mobile out and put midlifeunstuck.com and see if you don't agree with me. She's taking the mickey here.
Graham, you are one of the very few people in the world who've ever noticed that or certainly commented to me on it. And when I was having it designed, so we were working together, and this was one of the options, I said, that's the one, because it makes you look twice. Yeah. Not from a marketing perspective, I want to look at my position twice. I want to look at where I am in the world twice. I want to just pause and look again because it's a bit fuzzy. And I experienced feeling like, and I hear lots of people say, feeling like I was in a bit of a fog. Yeah, an automatic fog that I'm sort of running through at speed.
Yeah, no, I get that, and it's a very logical. That's a good explanation. It creates a wee bit of anxiety in me in the thing. I want to put that right somehow. I mean, it's just kind of just to shift it a little bit and put it back right. So, and when it comes to websites, anxiety is always a bit of a challenging thing to cope with. However, you have a picture of yourself there, smiling out from it looks like a jail cell or something like that. I don't know if it was a jail cell.
It's a local hotel. It's like the back of a local hotel.
Well, it's like what they call jails down in London, isn't it? But genuinely, you are dealing with people in their 40s, 50s, and even 60s. 60-year-olds looking for a change in career.
Because they're not done yet.
Right.
But they haven't found the problem that they want to solve. Yeah. Right. So they've still got more energy, still got more brain power, still got time, resources.
Yeah.
And want to channel them somewhere. So they're actually some of the most joyful clients I've worked with because I need that hope. I want everybody to see that hope.
Do they go up or down in the sort of career pathway? I mean, do they become, do they go off and strum a guitar, or do they go on to the next big job somewhere else in a different industry?
Different people. So I'm thinking of one of the most energetic people I know. So his name is Jez, and he featured in my book. And he was retired age, and he describes himself as man and boy in the bank. Yeah. So grew up in the bank, became a manager of the bank, the retail banking world, and was chucked out. Yeah. As often happens. By chucked out, I mean, he was made redundant, of course. Yeah. But he was exited multiple times and just thought, I've got to do this differently. So he was around 60 at the time. And he was trying to connect the dots. So he came to someone like me. It wasn't me, but he came to someone like me to connect the dots. And that helped him figure out the thing that he loved doing. One of his superpowers was performing and the technicality behind performing. So he had sung in Carnegie Hall. He sings in his local place. He leads choirs, etc. So what he did was he created a business that helps people to lose the nerves of public speaking in anything, corporates, etc. And he helped me when I did my TED Talk, which was absolutely brilliant because I'm not a natural stander on stage. I'm introverted and I love not being the center of attention. So he had so much energy. So he's now heading towards his 70s with a bigger business than he's ever imagined.
Oh, wow. Good luck to him. I mean, I have to say this is fascinating stuff. The one thing I pick up on is just back in the day, my first job was made redundant, and that's how Lander Associates back in the day told us we should say, you are not redundant, your job is. And it he explained it's a mindset because you, and pointing at me, you've got a degree here and you're young and all the rest. So I've always carried, and I think I've been through 5.
Yeah.
I think the average person typically loses their job in some way or other several times during.
Yes. Yes.
And that's understandable. Some of it is self-inflicted, a bit like Kevin. Really, he's been kicked out of more.
I've been kicked out twice.
Places. Have you? Well, that's different from redundancy, though, isn't it, Kevin? I mean,
no, it was redundancy, Graham.
All right. Okay.
But you're right. That phrase, I hardly ever use that phrase. I don't know. I think I was in relaxed, chill phase, but the position was made redundant. But there's all sorts of exits from companies, all sorts of them. And they happen more and more often the older we are. And that's a growing trend.
That's an interesting phrase as well. Exits from companies. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
The control stays with you then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So,
and that mindset is really important. The storytelling of the end of the story or the end of one story and the chapter of the next is terribly important to our self-esteem and our confidence and all those other things that we need to go forward.
You talked about your book. What's it called?
It's called Exchange: How to Torch Your Work Treadmill. I'll just give you, hang on a second. Here it is. Here is a little picture of it. It's got a matchstick on the front.
Right. Okay.
So that you can torch your work treadmill. So there's all sorts of reasons why people...
You don't mean torch the factory that you're just about to be booted out of. I mean,
that's a good idea.
It does seem a sort of a call to arms a little bit, doesn't it, in a sense? But
if you're a literal thinker, yes.
Well, no, I just enjoy workplace sometimes. But I saw the match and I was thinking, whoa, she's going to burn the place that I was in. But metaphorically, of course, that's what you're doing, isn't it? You're saying, look, it's done, and I'm just going to burn behind me,
and that's in the extreme phases. But if I'm being completely honest with you, most people come in thinking, I'm going to burn it down, the idea of it. But the reality is, in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, you sometimes have mortgages, you certainly have kids, or you might have kids, they might be at university, but you often need money. So you can't torch the work treadmill. No. But the treadmill, I think the work treadmill is the important bit, is that somebody is forcing you to be on the treadmill. Yeah. Whereas you can design, and that's the word I use, design the future, that it's your design, not someone else's work treadmill that's just sucking your soul dry. Yeah. And that's the kind of work we try to do.
If Kevin, was at a point where he wanted to move from his role, let's just say he goes back a bit to the last time it happened.
Yeah.
How would you intervene to help him?
Yeah. So over the years, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people. Yeah. So in my 19 years as a bit like you guys, but I just didn't record them. Yes. I interviewed.
What makes you think we're recording this? Kevin pulled the plug on this ages ago, but no, it's not true.
So there are patterns. I've got a very scientific mind, so I'm always looking for the pattern. So I've interviewed lots of people in my career who were not happy where they wanted to be and wanted to find a new job. But I realized that I was helping them move to the next treadmill as opposed to doing what I'm doing now, which is designing their way forward. So I think that's simply just a better way to do it. So if I was talking to Kevin, there's sort of 4 components that we would tangibly work through. The first is, in order to feel deeply fulfilled in work, I'll tell you the quick formula. I feel you need to use your 3 or 4 unique superpowers daily, and you need to point them at problems for others that really excite you. And then you need to figure out a way to make enough money to do the things you want to do in life, whilst avoiding what I call your kryptonite, the stuff that sucks your soul dry, or the stuff that takes your energy away, or the people, the places, the situations, environments that just quash you. So we would work out those 4 things, and then that would give us the way forward. So we would know. I
heard 3, but I just
avoiding the kryptonite is the last one. Yeah. Okay. So superpowers.
Yeah.
Super problems for others that interest you.
Yeah.
The financial piece. Yeah. Figure a way to market it in a way that you can make money, and then avoid your kryptonite.
Wow. What was your kryptonite then, Kevin?
I think when I look back and we talk about that last time that I was made redundant, and I'd been in Company Michelle, we were in a financial mess because it was 2010, it was a financial crisis. New government was elected, country went to austerity. Government stopped spending money. Our single client was government. And we were the transformation team trying to turn the company around. But frankly, we were losing revenue faster than we could transform things. And the company went bust in the end. But we, as the transformation team, one day the strategy director sort of pulled the whole team into his office and said, guys, we've got to a place now that actually we've been making everybody else redundant. Now it's time we make ourselves redundant. Okay, so very much that was the job disappearing, not us. It was nothing to do with our ability at all. But what did Kevin do? Kevin immediately started thinking, well, there's redundancy going on here. Well, the first thing that I've got the option to look for other roles in this company. Silly option because the company was going under, but I did start looking for other roles because you go into sort of panic mode a little bit. Then there was, okay, I probably need another management consultancy role. I will go out and start searching around other consultancies to do the same again.
Yeah.
Now, did I at any point in there think about what do I actually want to do? No, I didn't.
No.
And I suppose that's where the kryptonite comes in. That the kryptonite kind of, there's this, oh, I need security. There's bills to pay. There's no money in the bank.
Yeah.
Therefore, I will do what I'm doing now or do another version of what I'm doing now just in order to effectively survive. So I think for me, that's the kryptonite. I mean, in effect, what happened was I didn't get another full-time job in another consultancy. I ended up taking a 3-month contract. So I've been talking to a lot of people, and it was kind of, okay, whatever comes along first, it'll be the right thing. I'll take it. It's kind of my attitude. Took the 3-month contract, which was great. It got me having to form my own business, having to set up a company.
Yeah.
And it was a 21-month long 3-month contract in the end. And it got me into working independently, doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Then moving a little bit away, starting to dabble in online things, but none of it was particularly planned.
So are you saying then, Kevin, that you the one piece of all of that Lucia has already said is this idea of I don't think you called it creativity, but you it's almost like you were almost have to chase your heart's desire, and there was none of that in your. I don't know. If you were to go back to Kevin, he wasn't doing the thing that potentially could. He could have been. He could have been so much more happier now than he is. Had he made a different decision at that moment? But what was the missing bit that you could have helped him with?
So the missing bit, it's not a missing bit. He did what was necessary, because when you're in survival mode, you've got no choices. Yeah. Right. You can say, oh, I'd like to pause and think creatively about this. Yeah. But the fear monster is going crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So he needed to get a role doing what he was good at doing. So I would have encouraged him to do the same thing. Okay. Yeah. But when he was in that 3-month role and it looked like it was going a little bit longer, and actually there's a bit more stability here, then our security blanket relaxes and that inner critic keeps quiet for a little bit. That's when you could do the thinking. So I hardly ever work with people who have lost their position yesterday because they are in fight mode. Yeah. Yeah. Does that make sense? Because it would be fair. Yeah. I would be asking them to do creative things that their brain would stop them from doing because they don't feel secure enough to do it.
Right. So they have to have moved on a little bit, even though it might not necessarily be in the right long-term direction for him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the Venn diagram I've explained, if one of them is empty, it doesn't work. You can operate at low levels of using your superpowers. You can operate at low levels of helping people do things that are sort of interesting to you, but you can't operate at very low levels of earning enough money to live the life I need to live.
Okay, so you get into that, you get into the place that you've got some time to think. First thing you've mentioned is those superpowers. How do I work out what my superpowers are? I've got an idea because I've done Strengths Finder 2.0. And that's told me my 5 top strengths.
Yes.
And yes. Graham and I were both part of how we met originally. We were part of something called Internet Business Mastery. And do you remember that very first module in Internet Business Mastery where there was an awful lot of it about finding your purpose?
Yeah.
Went through all of that stuff that Jeremy and Jason put together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me an idea. But how would you go about finding your superpowers?
So I like you, I start with top 5 strengths. It is the easiest, lowest level, 20-minute effort to give you some insights of where to start. But sometimes the danger with that is at a certain age, 40 plus, 35 plus, you can become good at things that drain your life, that suck your soul dry. Yeah. And you think, just because I'm good at them, I've got to keep doing them. But you've worked very hard at getting good at them. So we have to just unpick that to make sure it's not a protective mechanism around strengths. Because so superpowers, where would I go from there? I would ask you a range of questions, and I would ask you to think about these questions 15 minutes every day for 2 weeks. Because in that period, you're repeatedly telling your brain that I want to remember all of the positive things about my life and career to date. So some of those questions are, what are you doing when time flies? What are you doing? And we're talking actions, specific, unique actions. What are you doing when people give you compliments? What were you doing at the weekend when people give you compliments? So this is in and out of work. What, as a child, did you get compliments for doing well? What books do you read? What, if you have complete control of the remote control, what kinds of programs do you watch and why? What are you doing? This is a brilliant one. What are you doing when you're supposed to be doing something else? And what drives other people absolutely crackers that you can't stop doing? And then we together find the patterns in all of those. And I listen to you and I watch you talk so that I can read your body language, your pace of speech. And I notice when things are connecting with you. And then I go off and into my cell, which you can see behind me, and figure it out and come back to you with some suggestions of what they might be. And we talk about those. And I hear you speaking about them again. And I go, we're in the right area. Let's get the words right. And these are like really top level human language. It's not something to do with spreadsheets. Yeah, it's not that kind of, it's, so for instance, a really cool client of mine who was about 55. And one of his superpowers we find out, he's called John. One of the superpowers we find out is that he is amazing at fixing things that don't work and creating solutions that don't exist yet. Now that sounds really clever and cool, but he did that when he played with Lego on the floor when he was 5 and 6 and 7. He didn't have any of those fancy models that they had today. He created tractors and double layers and triple layer tractors. So what he does now is he does all of the prosthetics. He invents prosthetics and gets to prototype level, and then he lets someone else take it on and get it to marketing exact product. But does that make sense that he's been doing that superpower for all of his life? And he got to a stage, the reason we were working together is he got to a stage where he had to do all this other stuff that was draining him. And once he realized that that was his superpower, he created a consulting business around just that activity.
Interesting. So
I like that bit that says, what are you doing when you're supposed to be doing something else?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting question.
And nobody can answer it first off. Can either of you answer it? Because usually it takes a little bit of quiet thought.
Yeah. You almost have to catch yourself in the
yes,
doing something that
I can kind of figure that out for me, because if I look back at StrengthsFinder, number 1 of my 5 strengths is learner.
Yeah, and you said something similar.
When I'm doing something that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, it's normally, I wonder what about that, and I've gone off to Google something or dig into something. Yeah.
So if that's where we'd start, then I'd go, under what circumstances do you do that? When is that most joyful? When have you lost 3 hours doing that? What are the topics? And we would just deep dive into that learning, because it can't just be learning, because learning is just a strength. And maybe 1/8 of the country have that as a strength, but there will be some way that you do learning that makes you feel brilliant, and that's your superpower. And it might be through conversation, for instance, with both of you.
Kevin,
because you can't do 9 years of a podcast.
No, well, yeah. no, you can, because you set your bar really, really low, and then you fail to reach it. So basically, no, Kevin's strengths were relator, learner, arranger, achiever, and analytic. So basically, I guess for me, the one that I recognize in you, Kevin, is definitely the first one, because not only do you do this podcast, but you have a separate podcast, which I can't remember the name of it. You mentioned it earlier. But anyway, the point, no, thank you for that.
I didn't mention it, Graham, so the bingo doesn't count.
We do a bingo on this, every.
I didn't know.
Oh no, God, to talk about.
I actually thought you'd lost the words, and I was trying to help you. Sorry about that.
Well, stop being so busy. But anyway, mine are activator. Means that you can make things happen by turning thoughts into action.
Yeah.
Futurist, strategic, intellectual thinker. I says, I was surprised as well. But basically, and then an ideas man. I suppose up to a point that a lot of that rings true. I suppose the intellectual thinker is that I'm constantly, the books that I would read, they used to be fiction, but not now. It's non-fiction. It's can I learn more about copy? Can I? And it's not just books. It's about videos. It's about on my daily walk, I'll listen to things related, and so I'm constantly trying to refine my mind to give me an edge when it comes to elements of what I do. But that's strengths finder. But if those are the, shall we say, the bits that go into these, what do you call them?
I'm not going to give you the answer now.
No. Well, you are turning out to be a bit of a sort of one of those awkward people. What can I say? But I suspect
you can't blame her, Graham. She's not going to give you the answer. You need to pay her a fee to get the answer.
Oh, how well you know me.
Yeah. No, no. Seriously though, you actually help people in a similar way to strengths find their superpowers. That then, I guess, presumably in a relaxed mode, that you're able to sort of. I worked for Lego in the 80s, and basically one of the things that we had is this, it's a new toy every day. And so basically one of the things about that is you're almost molding somebody with their elements of Lego bricks that enable you to sort of generate a new image for them to consider themselves this person. Because look, all of the things that you've got, activator, futurist, all those sort of things are there in this new manifestation of you as a person. So that ability is almost like a priest or a vicar, in the sense that you can be open with your religious leader in some way, and they can guide you into another version of yourself. Maybe
I don't feel in any way that I am changing people. I feel that I'm just taking off some of the mask that they've learned to use every day. Yeah.
So by people, then, aren't you? Now, don't go
just revealing.
Don't go all guardian on us now. Now, let's be straight. I know we want straight answers on the next 100 Days podcast. You are changing people if you're taking off layers.
Or revealing what they've been hiding. So am I changing people? I'm not really.
There might be some sort of look at Kevin. You wouldn't believe that he was in prison for 5 years, would you? Just wouldn't occur to you.
Because he wasn't in prison for 5 years.
All right, I'll give you a slight concession. I think I'm changing the way they do things. So one of my clients last week said, I've worked with you for 3 months, and I have completely changed the way I do work and do life. And I could not have had a more emotional reaction to that. Yeah. So I'm not changing them. I'm changing the way they do it so that it feels better for them, whatever better is.
And do their partners talk to you about their change?
Not me, although I do warn almost everyone in our first or second session that you are deciding to be different. Your partner isn't, and it is often very frustrating for them as
Mm.
you speed off into something new and you talk about it all the time because you're excited about it.
Yes. No,
So partners often are tired hearing about me or the Fierce World or the Fierce Emporium or whatever program people are in.
Yeah.
I don't apologize about that. I'm sorry.
No, and nor should I think you're doing a good thing, because let's face it, I'm putting my hand up to find somebody who can help me move from one place to another.
Yes.
And you're helping somebody do that, which is a noble pursuit, isn't it? Isn't that what you're doing? Is there anything more noble than helping somebody realize more about the potential they have? I'm not sure there is.
I'm going to leave that with you to decide, because there's no way on this earth that I would ever call the work that I do noble.
Truly, I'm bitten the Guardian newspaper. Honestly, seriously, my brother reads it. I don't know what the heck's wrong with him.
What do you read?
Oh, I don't read that. But no. It's
Yorkshire Post, isn't it, Graham?
No, they used to be. It used to be years ago, but I ditched that as well. They got too liberal. Anyway, that's so moving on then. Midlife Unstuck. Once you've become unstuck, what kind of life do these people, your ex-clients, presumably, or are they clients forever, or is it just they've moved, they don't pay you anymore, presumably?
In the beginning, I used to split up my programs and do little bits. So they do one year and then they'd come back another year. I don't do that anymore. We just do the full redesign and then they crack on with their lives. And I check in with them whenever I want to or whenever they want to. So last Friday night, another client emailed me. We hadn't worked together for 2 years and going, I got the dream job.
Oh, good.
I just said, do you still want to hear from me? Like, yes, I bloody well do. Because that's where the joy is.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. And often, I think that's a good example, because often it's not immediate for all the reasons we talked about. It can take 6 months, 3 months, a year, whatever.
But if that dream job is that, would you have manifested that dream 2 years ago, or was it just something that the reshaping, if you like, of somebody's psyche, if you like, pushed them towards something that allowed themselves into this new realm, and that then became the dream? It wasn't the dream 2 years ago when you were
definitely wasn't the dream 2 years. They didn't know the dream existed 2 years ago. But what they did was they figured out their superpowers, and they started using them deliberately.
Yeah.
And she said, people just started to notice, and I got a promotion in 6 months. But I didn't want to stay in that arena.
Yeah.
But I got exposed to more people because I was using my superpowers.
Yeah.
And then that's a year later, then she got to move into transformation. And we'd looked, some of her superpowers were around helping humans who love numbers change. She hated numbers, but she could help people who love humans to change. So she's in the finance transformation team leading it now. Perfect for her. Not forever, but perfect for her.
Yeah.
Now.
Another finance person, just what we need, Kevin, really, isn't it?
Oh, the world's full of finance people.
Yeah.
Finance people make the world go round.
Well, yeah, this surely does. But no, honestly, Lucia, first of all, I love that name. My eldest is called Luke, and I think Lucia. I mean, that would have. I suppose in Italy it might have been something like that, wouldn't it, Luke?
Yes. So I think there's a Luca in Italy that is the male version of Lucia, or in Italy it's Lucia.
Lucia.
Do you like that better?
And so, okay, but your knowledge of people, does that get you into trouble?
Oh God. Well, one of my superpowers does get me into trouble, and it's sort of about my understanding of people as well. So one of my superpowers is, and I'm going to read it out to you because I never leave anywhere without it. I've got 6 of them. I'm not telling them all, but asking one more question than is socially acceptable.
Yeah.
So, and I do that everywhere.
Yeah.
And I do it about every topic on this earth.
You're not on a PTA or anything like that, or you might have been, but you're not.
I was. No. God, no.
But isn't it always that last question?
Yeah.
That gives you the interesting answer?
I think so.
Mm.
And I can't stop doing it. But I often have to, with in-laws or with friends that are sensitive or private, I just have to put a little mask on that superpower. But
Isn't it maybe you read, you probably have read Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
yes.
I guess up to a point, your extra question, maybe that ought to be an extra question about them. I don't know. Maybe reveal yourself. I don't know. I maybe I'm just going off on a tangent, but there's something in that I suffer from, and I think it's something where if you can actually, show far more interest in someone else than your own thing, and that's that. We've been talking earlier, Kevin, about websites and so forth, and in a sense, you don't start with you when it comes to a website. You have to start with the person coming to
and
see
their problem,
and their problem. And maybe that's the you're feeling guilty. Here I am being the psychologist. I did it at A level. No, I didn't. I've just lied there. I didn't do it at A level.
I could see it. I could smell it.
The lie. No. I think it was in year one degree. But at the end of the day, I didn't really understand it. Got the book, but I didn't really read it. But I think that for you, it's that embarrassment of not being customer first.
What do you think of that, Kevin?
There we are. You see, asking the extra question that wasn't
You're good. I'll give you that, Lucia. You're very
to
good.
deflect the answer away from herself.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think there is a part of that, and it's probably not true with you. But I mean, you come across as somebody who's deeply knowledgeable of people, and that thirst for knowledge must make you want to ask another question.
Honestly, it does. I could sit in a field with anybody and talk about their life, their thoughts, their opinions, their beliefs, their forever, and be delightedly happy. I'd only be using one of my superpowers, but I'd be happy for quite a long time. And that's the point. You can't just use one superpower forever because it's not enough. We need multiple of them in most days to feel joyful, deep satisfaction.
And if you had to heal thyself, is there something about your knowledge of yourself that would say, I'm only 51? You don't look it, by the way, but I'm only 51. By the time I'm 55, I could take my pension, but by then I want to do this. What I mean, have you even thought of that? I mean, you must have done, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Loads of thoughts. So one of the exercises I take people through is I ask them to think of every single problem in the world that in some way resonates with them. And then we take every single one of those, and they're only finished when their brain is empty. Yeah. Okay. To be fair, usually that's around 70 or 80. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got one client who went to 2003, but only one. And so I've already done this exercise for myself, and I know the other problems I will focus on. So one of them is death. I don't believe we speak about death. I don't think we do grief very well. I think we need to do more of that. And that fits with my asking one more question. That is, I can talk about death. I can ask about death in supermarkets. My husband is going, please don't ask them. And so I will be doing something about that. I also firmly believe, and I'm doing a talk in a school next week, that there is not enough of this sort of career design insight in schools. So I talk once every 6 months when I've got some free time to a bunch of 16, 17 and 18-year-olds. And I do a talk called Career Happiness, Where to Start. Really simple stuff, but nobody else is talking about it in their life.
Wow.
No, very true. You at school, you get put on some train tracks effectively. You do.
It's the beginning bit of the train tracks, yes.
Which then logically leads to A levels, which logically leads to a university degree.
Yeah.
Nobody says, oh, just go and do a degree in a subject that you really like. People are already saying, oh, and what career do you want? And you end up choosing a career which, let's face it, at 18, you probably haven't really thought about properly.
Mm.
And you, 9 times out of 10, choose a degree that is suitable for that career rather than perhaps the one that was your passion to follow. And I'm probably a typical example of that because I did a degree in economics and accounting.
Which kept your options open, but was
Ish.
narrow enough that also led you somewhere.
Yeah, but I'd already said, well, I'm probably going to be an accountant. So that gives me some exemptions into professional exams. So I'll do that.
Yeah.
You do the professional exams, you qualify. You then go and get yourself jobs in the finance function. And you probably feel all the way through your career in some ways that, oh, I qualified as an accountant, I qualified as a finance person.
Yeah.
Therefore, I've got to use this.
Totally. And all of those are logical statements. Yeah. And, now that we pay for university, it's an even more logic discussion. It's not about feeling. And so my advice to all of these children, get a part-time job doing anything, volunteer for anything, do the DFE, do the babysitting, but just say yes to loads and loads of things that may or may not, but that's the only place that you can find your superpowers, if you do loads and loads of things.
Oh, that's a superb place to draw this first discussion, because I think we should have you back at some stage, preferably when Kevin's in a far better mood than he has been today. But what can I say?
He's been very smiley and supportive today.
No, well, one of us hasn't. The point is, you've been an absolutely first-rate guest on the Next 100 Days podcast.
So, Graham, getting unstuck. Are you stuck?
No, no longer. I think I'm far from stuck. I think actually I've got renewed energy and renewed passion for what I'm doing. Because I think the as I said in the chat we've just had, that there's a lot of things going on around us that are presenting challenges, and I want to be standing up to those challenges with a bit more effort in the things that I should be doing better. And I think AI and the application of AI within marketing is fascinating to me. And I think for me, it's the wrong time to hang up my clogs.
And that's interesting because there'll be some folks that are thinking, oh, the world is changing. The world's changing unrecognizably. There's this new technology coming along. I can't get the hang of it. And I have always feared the day that technology doesn't make sense to me. And I'm really glad that I actually am getting into what's happening now. I'm understanding what's happening now. And that we talked during the podcast about our strengths.
Yeah.
And learner is certainly one of mine.
It is, yeah.
Learn stuff just for the sake of learning it. And knowing about these new things that are coming around, certainly something that at the moment floats my boat and wants me to keep going and moving forward.
Yeah, the thing that we could do is we could focus on retirement and what that means to us, because we are going through that, and some of our audience will be facing up to that, maybe gone through it, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think there's a body of work that we can actually address in that area for sure. But then I think for me, our particular style, the way in which we relate to people, etc., I think we can take on any part of the age ranges and actually bring out the best of people in our particular way. So yeah, I'm really excited about all of those sort of things, and I think that is that's the kind of thing that I want us to do going forward.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, well, Lucia mentioned kryptonite as well as superpowers. And I think one of the interesting things to do at our stage is identify what the kryptonite is and get rid of it. For me, and where I am at the moment, is doing far too many admin-y type things, and I'm consciously trying to offload them elsewhere right now.
Yeah, I whether you don't look, at the end of the day, we all have to do a bit of admin every now and again. So if it's too much, then you have to hire somebody. So that's the right answer there. But for me, it's definitely not time to give up. If I felt that I'd only got so many months to live, and who knows, then I probably would have a different view of life. But then again, what on earth would you do for those few months, even if you knew that you only had a few months? So for me, I'd like to be able to achieve something in the last, shall we say, couple of chapters of my career that has some meaning, that potentially could be passed on to other people, and potentially could also have a bit of a drip into the pension.
Absolutely. I think I'm with you. That's what it's about. And there's certainly no way that I think coming up to what might be quoted as retirement age, do I actually want to retire? Interesting, this morning, I just happened to listen to the breakfast show on Radio 2. Zoe Ball was interviewing the Reverend Richard Coles.
Mm-hmm.
Ex-pop star, became a vicar, and he was on the show because he was promoting his latest book. And because Richard's going full on at life, as he's done all the way through. And Zoe just said, "But I thought you'd retired, Richard." And his reply was, "No, I've just freed up some time to do some other things."
Mm-hmm. Nice one.
Very interesting answer. Yes, he's stopped being a full-time reverend.
Yeah, it's the same as my job was made redundant and I'm redundant. It's exactly the same thing. And it's the way in which people look at you, in part, when you say I've been made redundant, that there's almost like a benevolent sort of, oh, woe is you, you're probably suffering and all that kind of stuff. And as opposed to saying, my job was made redundant, but I'm fine. I'm going after new jobs, and I'm full of energy, and I'm looking for my next career path. Different set of circumstances. People look at you in a different way, and I think is very true with pretty much everything that we do in this podcast. We're trying to help people with having fascinating guests, just like Lucia. She was a fascinating guest, really interesting in the way in which she helps to change people. So it's been a great podcast, Kevin, and well, I've been Graham Arrowsmith.
I've been Kevin Appleby. Goodbye.
Goodbye.